Hi, I'm Mark from Barratt's Music. I'm very fortunate today to be joined by Dr. Rob McWilliams, who comes to us from Queensland. Rob's in Tassie at the moment helping out with some bands in our community programs and school programs here. We're very fortunate to have him here supporting music in Launceston. Rob's got decades of experience and qualifications in teaching in bands, orchestras and ensembles across Australia, but also spent a substantial amount of time in the United States teaching there, and has become very well known and respected across the world, really. So we're very fortunate to have him here. In the last few years he's been working with Yamaha in Australia, and Yamaha pay Rob to just fly around the country helping school bands and orchestras and community bands and help them in their professional development for their leadership and conducting. So it's a fantastic role. I'm very generous of Yamaha to be supporting music, community music and band and school music in Australia. We're very fortunate to have Rob amongst us. And Rob's just been busy helping here again this week. It was a number of times you've been here now in Launceston and throughout Tassie. So thank you so much for coming in.
That's great.
But look, I just wanted to have a really quick chat with you about the benefits of music for people who might be thinking of taking up music or helping their kids get into music. And I'd just like to start with, in Launceston we're very fortunate to have a number of schools and private studios that teach music to very young children, 6 down to, well, right from birth, really. So it's great to have those facilities here. What benefits do you see and have you seen for young children when they start to learn musical concepts?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate now to have an increasingly large body of research that is starting to really show us why. We've always thought that music was beneficial, but we never really sort of knew what was going on, why it seemed to be so beneficial. Now we know that it has a massive impact on brain development, and the first big chunk of that is in those early years, obviously.
Yeah.
A baby is really, that brain is going nuts trying to figure out what's going on in the world around them. And music can play a really critical role, because one of the first things a young baby tries to do, of course, is deal with language. They hear their parents speak to them, and they're trying to figure out how does that all work. That's why they babble. They're trying to do what we're doing, you know. And the thing about music is that it ties into that exact same part of the brain that processes speech. So when you get music going at the very young stages, the early childhood stages, it's very powerful, because it's tapping into that same brain function that kid is trying to do to process speech. And the research shows us now that people who study music, one of the areas where music really enhances what they do is in language skills. And because language is such a key part of educational development, obviously we learn most of what we learn through language. Because of that connection to the broader educational spectrum, music is beneficial across everything that someone does. So the early childhood stage, when that brain, as I said, is really developing in huge leaps and bounds, having music as part of that is a massive benefit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if they go on to play an instrument later?
Then it seems like there's some clear stages. There's that first stage of sort of maybe 6 or 7 years where the brain is really going through its initial growth and development. Then there's another second stage from that 7 to sort of going through puberty and adolescence and all that, where the brain now is starting to process things in terms of what it needs to retain, what information it can sort of move out of the way now, you know, what are the key things to deal with. And in that stage, which is when a lot of students do take up an instrument at the school age, that's really a key brain development stage as well. So the same benefits, you know, it's been shown that musicians' brains look different. Oliver Sacks, who was a very famous neurosurgeon, neuroscientist, is quoted as saying that he could always tell the brain of a musician.
Right.
He couldn't distinguish the brain of an artist or a writer or any of those, a mathematician or anything. They all looked the same. But the minute there was a musician's brain, he could tell, because it was physically different.
Wow.
The physiology is actually changed when a person gets into playing an instrument. The grey matter is actually denser than it is on the average person.
Right.
So the brain develops in very powerful ways through the process of learning an instrument. And we think a lot of that is basically because it is quite a complex task. You know, playing an instrument engages your listening skills, you've got to read a language, you've got to find motor skills,
Yep.
and you're also trying to express yourself, you know, it's trying to connect it to our emotional self as well.
Very much so.
So it is such a complex activity, the brain is really working hard, and as a result it's developing in really special ways.
And doing all those things simultaneously
That's right.
is a benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great.
So really, whatever age you do it, your brain is doing these processes to deal with making it work.
Yeah, no, terrific.
Yeah,
Bit of a workout.
it is. Yeah, and it's been likened to a sort of a full brain workout.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it does use so many of our different senses.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're playing, you've got touch as well. If you're playing an instrument on, say, a keyboard, or you're blowing an instrument, there's all of that physiological component as well,
Which you also have to control.
which you also have to control.
Yeah.
So your brain's controlling all the muscles, fine motor and large motor, because of breathing. It's decoding this foreign language, because music language is not like any other, it is a foreign language. It's decoding the language and translating it into a sound, and then you're trying to make that work. You know, often if you're playing with other people, you're making, you know, it's just a very intricate and complex task, and as a result, as I said, the brain is really working.
Yeah, okay. And yet music is also highly doable.
Yes.
We made it sound terribly complex.
Yeah. Well,
But
the task is gone, but everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, terrific.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, I've heard a bit about the benefits of, that's someone just learning an instrument, but if they step into an ensemble and start to learn to play with other people, there are some extra benefits.
Absolutely, yeah. Because once you get with a group of people, now you've got to relate what you're doing to what everyone else is doing, and make it function as a team. I think a music ensemble is the absolute best model of a team, because you know, if you think of a sporting team, well, maybe whether it's football or soccer, whatever you want to think of, not every player's involved at any moment.
Yes.
So it's only a subset of the team that's actually doing something at any given time in the game. Whereas in music, when the whole ensemble plays together, everybody's in there.
Yeah.
Everybody's involved, and everybody is connected to everybody else at those moments.
Yeah.
And as a result, everybody's part has an impact on everybody else. This is where the teamwork thing for me is so powerful, because if you and I are sitting in an ensemble together and you do something that's not correct,
Likely.
if you were to do that, you affect everybody else that's sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, we're all affected by what each of the people in that ensemble does.
Yeah.
We are interconnected in an amazing way, I think. So as I say, I don't think you find that in sport. Maybe the closest thing would be tug of war, where everybody's, you know, trying to pull in one direction, but that's a fairly simple thing. You know, even things like drama productions and things like that, someone can deliver their lines appropriately and really well. Doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's lines are going to, you know, someone could fluff their lines and you could still deliver your lines perfectly well.
Okay.
You know? But in music, because we're all doing it simultaneously, we're all doing our thing, playing our music at the same time, we're all interconnected in a very powerful way.
So there's that social connection.
And there's a social connection, absolutely. Because you're all trying to make the music feel a certain way, because the whole thing
together.
Well, there's that, and there's also that music is typically expressing something. You know, if we're playing a piece of music that's sad, for example, then the whole idea is we're all trying to create that emotion and that feeling. So, or if it could be anything, it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be whatever, but we're all trying to create that same emotional thing at the same time. So we're really connected that way too, and we have to, as a result, be really sensitive to each other as emotional beings. And that's something that you're just not going to get in other things like sport or, you know, painting or whatever it might be.
Yeah, great. Look, I've noticed over the last few years a lot of adults taking up music, either going back to it, like I am actually with piano lessons, or taking it for the first time. Is this a good thing for adults to be doing for themselves?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of research now that shows music's powerful for younger humans, because of the brain and learning development thing. It's been shown to be fantastic for actually remediation. So it's been used in research has been done on students with poor language skills, and then the study of music has then really bumped their language skills up.
Right, yes.
So it's sort of as a remediation thing. And then the third thing is as a therapy for people who are suffering brain degradation, dementia and so forth, that being involved with music has either slowed it down or helped them to function better or whatever it might be. So there's all kinds of things that show that music's beneficial at all stages. Because those benefits that we talk about, because of the way the brain has to deal with all those things we talk about when we learn to play, those are beneficial at all stages.
Great. So the elderly as well are going to benefit by the sounds of what you're saying as well.
Yep. And I'll say that one of the things that I've noticed here in Launceston, which has been great, this particular week I've been working a lot with the community music program, and a huge chunk of the participants of that are older adults, or adults and older, who have in many cases started to learn an instrument at that stage of life. So they didn't do it at school. A lot of them will probably say, "I wish I had," or I look back and wish I had the opportunity, I didn't take it, whatever. But they're coming to it now as older adults and older, and that's been lovely to see. Yeah. People who are just equivalent in their music stage as a school kid, but as a much older person. Yeah. And the joy they're getting out of it, and the you can just see they're getting so many rewards from it. It's just fantastic. Because I think they probably appreciate it potentially a little more than a young person who doesn't realise necessarily, But as an older person, you come to things like that and you have a little more awareness of just how appreciative you are of this activity.
Yeah, for sure.
It's lovely to see that.
Well, I might just quickly ask you, what are your experiences with the sections of Launceston and Northern Tasmania's community and school music teaching practices? Would you rate us as doing well in this community?
From what I've seen, there's this, because obviously Launceston's not a massive population size. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And as I said, I've been out to some schools, obviously, seen quite a bit going on in schools. But also, just as I said, in the community more broadly, lots of people involved in this activity as a community activity.
Yeah.
So not school-based, but just as a community activity. I'd say Launceston is a really, really good model of that.
Yeah, great.
There's probably communities or areas that are bigger in terms of population size who don't have as much going on as what Launceston has.
Yeah, I feel we're a very musical city.
Yeah,
We've got some awesome teachers.
Yeah, and that's part of it. You need to have the teachers, obviously, to keep that going.
Yeah.
But no, I'd say there's some really, really good activity, very positive.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much for coming in today and for coming and supporting Launceston. We've been here all week.
Yeah.
And Rob supported us in this town and across Tassie on a number of occasions, and we've seen some great results. And thanks to Yamaha as well for providing such a valuable resource in Rob for our community orchestras around the country.
I'm just appreciative to have the opportunity to share the word, because I really believe in how valuable music is to every age. And so this particular role enables me to be out there letting people know that, hey, it's never too late to start an instrument.
I'm certainly passionate about it.
And the benefits just, and the other thing I'd like to say, because sometimes people think, they might start an instrument, might see someone playing an instrument and think, oh, gee, I'm not very good at this, I've been playing it for X amount of time and I'm still not very good. The good thing is all of those benefits we talked about, the brain stuff and the social and the emotional, and all of those benefits are equally powerful no matter how good you are at it.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's a bit like, you might not be the best weightlifter, but if you go weightlifting, it's still doing you good.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. If you play a musical instrument, you're going to get all those benefits regardless of whether you're good or bad at it, relatively how good you are at it. So I would just encourage people, especially maybe even parents who might be watching this, who look at their student and think, oh, well, he or she's not doing very well, so maybe they should quit. Then they're going to miss out on all those benefits.
Yeah.
The benefits are there regardless of ability.
And I've found with my own kids that sometimes you just got to keep pushing gently and encouraging gently, and suddenly it just clicks for them.
Oh, I'm glad
and they get excited.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's actually research that shows that if a student plays, or I guess it could be anybody, but if you learn an instrument and you give it away within the first 2 to 3 years, the benefits sort of dissipate in terms of the brain and all that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Over time, you like down the track, it's probably not had an impact. But people who stick at it for that 2 to 3 year plus time frame, actually, it's been shown that there's a lifelong impact then on the brain. So I would encourage parents who might have a student who's going, we've all had moments where we struggle, we're not doing as well, and we want to give up. The parents, if they just encourage their young musicians to just keep going in that 2 to 3 year time frame, what usually happens is they get over those humps and they get to play their instrument well enough that it now starts to be rewarding on its own. They can do things with other people, and it sounds pretty good, and it becomes a self-fulfilling thing then. So just encourage them to keep going. Don't give in to that urge to quit at the first hurdle. It's really important.
Well, look, thank you so much, Rob. We're very, very grateful. If you want help to get into music, come and see us at Barratt's Music, and we can help you connect with teachers and local bands and people that will be able to help you down the road. There's plenty of passionate music educators in Greater Launceston area. So come and see us and we'll connect you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Awesome.